We are ready. Welcome to this week's Ask Schellie segment. My name is Schellie Fan. I am your emotional intelligence expert. I am the founder and CEO of Ask Schellie Consulting, where we bring corporations to peak performance through the provision of psychoeducation. I have the privilege of working with individuals, adolescents, adults, couples, and families, and providing therapy, evidence-based interventions to help them to break through, overcome injury, and reach the best version and achieve the best versions of themselves, the best outcomes in life. I help with breaking behavioral patterns and thought patterns that keep us bound. This is what I do. I have the privilege of walking in purpose, and that is such a blessing. And every time I come live before you, it is a greater blessing. It gives me an opportunity to allow God's light to shine. Every week, Tuesdays at 12, I come before you live sharing a question that has been asked of me. And let me tell you where that came from. Most of you know the story. Psychotherapists, when you share who you are and what you do, people want to ask questions. And so one day I said, you know what? I should share these questions with the world, because people would not believe the questions that I'm asked, right? And so about a year ago, I started to go live every Tuesday at 12 o'clock, sharing a question that was asked of me, providing feedback. It's not therapy, and it's not meant to replace that process. Therapy is when you align yourself with a trained expert who has the credentials, that has the anointing to assist you in overcoming injury or achieving the life outcomes that you set out to achieve in that season of your life. You consent to treatment. You engage in a treatment plan. This is what the therapeutic process is. And this is no way an attempt to replace that. I read a question. I give my listeners an opportunity to share their feedback. I share my feedback, and we allow the person to do with the feedback the best, whatever they feel they need to do with that feedback. I hope that all of my listeners and those who are in earshot or eyeshot of this live, that they're able to add tools to their wellness toolbox. And so today we are highlighting a question from a gentleman who's writing in, who believes that his good wife is cheating on him. Now, this email was long, and this is what he does. He shares 7 reasons, right? 7 reasons why he believes that his amazing wife is cheating on him. And in this question, he specifically says, I want to hear the feedback of your listeners. He didn't even ask for my feedback. He said he wanted the feedback of my listeners. Now, am I going to provide some feedback? I may, because it's very hard for me to keep my mouth shut. But I need your feedback. It's going to be important. It's going to be important for you to engage in this discussion. And so he is going to be watching the replay. He's going to be taking note of the feedback that you guys provide. And so understand that this husband specifically asked for the feedback of my listeners. So I'm going to need you to share your thoughts on this week's question, okay? Are we ready? Are we ready? Yadi says, LOL, yes, we want to know about our issues. Well, this is why I am here. And of course, for those of you who feel like you need a little bit more support, then you can always email us at info@askschellie.com. And I'll talk about that a little bit more at the end. Hello, Mark. Thank you so much for joining. Lux V Hair, thank you. Love Speaking Blogs, thank you so much for joining on Instagram. Okay, so we are all patched in. Are we ready? Are we ready for this week's question? Let me pull it up. Woo, I'm going to need your help on this one. Here we go. And it reads, hold on. Here we go. And it reads, Dear Ask Schellie, I am married to an amazing woman. She is truly amazing. My friends remind me all of the time of how great she is. Why do you have to be reminded? But, don't mind me. Don't mind me. Okay. Hi, Stephanie. Thank you so much for joining. All right, here we go. So, dear Ask Schellie, take notes. I need your help. This man is saying, I am coming to the Ask Schellie Show because I want to know if my wife is cheating. Here we go. Dear Ask Schellie, I am married to an amazing woman. She is truly amazing. My friends remind me all of the time of how great she is. She is beautiful. She satisfies me sexually. She is an excellent mother. She is a phenomenal cook. She is compassionate and so much more. For most of our marriage, she has been a stay-at-home wife and mother, which is a mutual decision we both made. Now that our children are older and transitioning out of the nest, she wanted my support with her going back to school for nursing, and I gave my full support. She is now a successful RN and is thriving. Over the past year, maybe a little over a year, I have noticed some changes in her behavior. I have never shared this with anyone. This email is the first time I have communicated my concerns to another human being. Why isn't he sharing this with his wife? That's a different story. So this email is the first time I have communicated my concerns to another human being. While there are many observations that have caused me alarm, the main ones are the following, and he breaks them down into 7. So as you're listening, I'm going to read each one. And I want you to say, number 1 is a definite yes. So I'm going to share his observation, and I want you to share what you think. Like, do you think that means that she's cheating or not? Are we ready? Let me know you're ready. Let me know you got your pen. I want you to number these. We're going over the 7 top observations that cause this man to feel his wife is cheating. Are we ready? Let me know that you're ready. Let me know you have a pulse. Let me know you're out there. Okay, here we go. Number one, a couple of times out of the week, she packs an extra bag that has a change of clothes. Now, you see that I'm like really, truly struggling here. I think my eyesight is getting worse. So the promise that I'm going to make to all of you is by the time I come on next week, I'm going to have glasses. But bear with me. Number 1, a couple of times out of the week, she packs an extra bag that has a change of clothes. She claimed that she would work out on breaks, which is why she needed the bag. One day she left for work and forgot the bag at the door. I went into the bag and saw that she had packed lingerie, warming massage oil, and a dress. There was no workout clothes included. That's number 1. Talk to me, people. You don't leave me here alone, okay? Don't leave me here by myself. That's number 1. Tell me what you think so far. That's number 1. He gives 7. Now we're moving to number 2. You guys got to talk to me. That was number 1, okay? Love Speaking Blog on Instagram says, ouch. And she has like this look on her face like, ugh. Yaritza says 11111. Jason Buckner on Facebook says case closed on number 1. Well, we don't know that yet. We got 6 more to go. Okay, so I see some people just joined. I'm going to repeat number 1 and go on. Number 1, a couple of times out of the week, she packs an extra bag that has a change of clothes. She claimed that she would work out on breaks, which is why she needed the bag. One day she left for work and forgot the bag at the door. I went into the bag and saw that she had packed lingerie, warming massage oil, maybe she needed that for her masseuse, and a dress. There was no workout clothes included. Number 2, as beautiful as my wife is, one thing that I love about her is that she's kind of a tomboy. Sounds like me. So she can go weeks without shaving, etc., and be okay with it. Lately, she does not miss a beat. She shaves often and gets professional waxing regularly. She gets professionally waxed regularly. What do you think of number 2? She's shaving more often. She's getting her Brazilian waxes on. Not really typical of her behavior. What do you guys think? That's number 2. Number 2. Yaritza's eyes are wide open. I really hope that we can conclude that maybe not, but here we go. Number 3. That was number 2. What do you guys think of number 2? We're at number 3 now. Her sexual mannerisms have changed. She is much more liberal and comfortable with her body. Once upon a time, turning on the lights was a novelty. Now she is open to many different positions and has even suggested becoming intimate in different parts of the home, including the backyard. Number 4, her girl getaways are increasing. One night, she told me she was going to meet the girls at an Airbnb for an emotional eating session. One of her girlfriends stopped by our home a couple of hours later to say hello and drop off some fruits from her tree. While she was at the home, there was no mention of, hey, see you later at the Airbnb or anything like that. Let me go back. So she says she's going to go out with the girls to an Airbnb. Of those girls that she's supposed to meet, swings by the house with some fruit from the tree. While she's at the home, there was no mention of, hey, see you later at the Airbnb or anything like that. As a matter of fact, she was like, I will see you later. I'm about to go home and knock out for 12 hours. I kept on watching television and acted like I did not hear that exchange. Number 5. Yaritza says, gosh, he needs more reasons. And here on Instagram, Love Speaks blog says she's trying to spice up the marriage. Okay, so that doesn't necessarily mean she's cheating. Okay, I got that. So this is number 5. Her cell phone is now password protected. What do you guys think? Number 6, she is very image conscious. She has lost a tremendous amount of weight. And number 7, she appears to be freshly showered when she comes home from work. With the pandemic, etc., I can understand why, but this was happening before COVID. Okay? Does anyone need me to repeat any numbers? Okay, we had 1 through 7. If you need me to repeat any numbers, let me know. If you weren't taking notes, let me know. Okay, and so Love Speaks blog on Instagram says, I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt. What do you guys think? Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, keep speaking. He gives 7 observations. He's not done though. Then he says this. I wish I was losing my mind, but I am not. I have been calm and collected, and I have not said a word. And through it all, she continues to treat me like a king. I would love to hear the feedback of your listeners. See how he counts me out. And he says, what do you do with a good cheating wife? Okay. So Yadi here on Facebook says, I really hope it's a trap, but she sounds guilty. We have Love Speaks blog on Instagram giving her the benefit of the doubt. So here we have these 7 reasons that this gentleman shares about why he believes his wife is cheating. If there's anyone that did not hear all 7, let me know. But if you did hear it, I would love to hear your feedback because he's asking for the feedback of my listeners, okay? I will say this while you guys get your thoughts together because I would love to hear what you think about this. Number 1, when he goes back and he comes back or while he's on right now and he's reading all of this feedback, it's important to understand that this is just feedback. Right? None of us really know the truth unless you're a prophet or a prophetess and you'd like to share your prophecy or whatever it is that you're seeing. So We're getting some feedback here. Before I go over that, I think it's important that he understands that what we are providing our feedback comes from so many different places. And then let me say this. Yes, all of the individuals here, part of my consultation team, you are providing your feedback, right? But feedback comes from past experiences. Feedback comes from our own injury. Feedback comes from our distorted filters. Feedback comes from so many different places. It doesn't necessarily make it true. So I want this gentleman to understand that while you're reading the feedback, also remember that it is just feedback. It doesn't necessarily mean that it is true. And so Jason Buckman here on Facebook says, you line up your exit strategy. Okay, hold on. Let me go back. Jason says, you line up your exit strategy, confirm the use of the lingerie, then execute your plan is what you do. So this is what Jason is saying here on Facebook. Let me repeat it. He says, you line up your exit strategy, confirm the use of the lingerie, then execute your plan is what you do. So I guess, Jason, she can't work out in lingerie. Is that what we're saying here? She can't work out in lingerie. You know, maybe she wants to put the lingerie on after she works out to put her makeup on or something, just to feel like she's at home. I'm not sure. But I do. I'm just trying here because, yeah, I'm with you, Jason. Line up your exit strategy. Now, do we need to line up an exit strategy? Do we? Okay, we'll talk about that a little bit later. Does adultery mean it's over? Does adultery mean it's over? Yadi on Facebook says, my husband also said she sounds like she's cheating. Okay, that was Yadi. Let's see. We have some more feedback here. Hello, Sandra. Thank you so much for joining this week's Ask Schellie segment. On Love Speaks blog on Instagram, she says she's probably going to pole dancing classes. Okay, so, you know, Love Speaks blog is really trying to give her the benefit of the doubt. And I love that. And so Shelton on Facebook says she's cheating, but he has to ask himself if it's worth losing all the benefits he's talking about. Great mom, wife, and homemaker. I don't know. It might be worth them trying to work it out, even though she's desiring something else in this season. That's interesting, in this season, because Shelton, what it says, what I'm suggesting, what you're saying is that this may be a season. There's a suggestion there, an implication that this is seasonal, that she may be going through a certain phase in her life. We're talking about a woman who was a homemaker. They made the decision that she was going to stay at home, right? Whatever that decision was based on, we don't know, whether it was financial, whatever, but they made the decision that she was going to stay home. And then now that her children are transitioning out of the nest, there's so much that happens in that time frame. Listen, I'm in that space right now. There's so much that goes on in your head when your children are leaving the nest. It is a very emotional process when your children are transitioning out of the home. And a lot of the times when I'm working with women and men, more so women, their whole identity begins to change. The need to be needed is starting to decrease. Your children are growing up. And you know, you have to ask yourself, who are you now? Who are you? Who are you? What is your impact? How are you impacting this world? And sometimes that's a very hard thing for many women to process when their children no longer need them, when their role is changing, because as a homemaker, that is starting to shift because your children are transitioning out of the home. So much going on there. And so here she is. She gets this opportunity to do what she really wanted to do probably from the very beginning, and that was go to nursing school. She becomes an RN. She lost all this weight. She's going out with her girlfriends. I'm assuming these were things that she couldn't do before. And here we are. And so great change. You know, a lot of times positive changes in our lives come with stress. You know, it's like sometimes our bodies don't recognize change as positive change or negative change. So our bodies respond by releasing these stress hormones and so many other things that happen psychologically. And this is why therapy is good, to help people through those transitions in their lifestyle, in their lifespan. It's important to get the therapeutic help that you need to work through those seasons to achieve a better version of yourself. We're always challenges are inevitable, but therapy helps us to break some of those behavioral patterns, thought patterns. It helps us to address that emotional injury that causes us to make these decisions in the first place. Stephanie on Facebook says, she sounds like she's cheating, excuse me. Time to confront her about it. Love, love, love that. And so here we are, guys. We talked about, number one, the importance of him understanding that he is being provided feedback, that all of the feedback that we're giving, while as priceless and valuable as it is, it does not necessarily mean that she's cheating, okay? The second thing is he has to talk to her about it. He has to have this courageous conversation with his wife about what it is he is seeing. And it's important that in this exchange that he not be accusatory, but he just says what he sees. Say what you see. A lot of the times when you want to confront people about behavior, it's important to not be accusatory and to say what it is you see. You try to be as objective as possible about your observations, right? Without accusing. So it would be like what? The same thing he just did when he lined up those 7 reasons or lined up those 7 observations is what he can do in a very intentional conversation. We've done this before. We've been here before. What have we said about intentional conversations? Intentional conversations is when you have planned a time to sit with your loved one to have a discussion. You are not having these courageous conversations when you're upset, pissed off, we're in the midst and in a heated argument, and this is when I'm going to choose to confront you. No, we do not do that. We have intentional conversations, because when you have intentional conversations, you could be more logical and less emotional. And so during this courageous conversation, it's important for him to say what he sees. I noticed that when you pack your clothes for your workouts, you're not necessarily packing workout clothes. And there was a time when you left a bag at the door, and this is what I saw. I also observed that when you say you're going out with your girlfriends never reference these outings when you guys are together. I observed that. You get my point, right? See what you say. And then it's important that as you are saying what you see, as you are saying what you see, when you start talking about your, okay, Yadi, I see you. When you are talking about what you are seeing, right? Because we're saying what we see, that you reference your feelings in the form of I statements. And we do that because you are taking ownership for how you feel. Right? You got to take ownership for how you feel, and you also have to take ownership for what you are thinking. So I'm going to say this. This was not a part of, this is a whole, probably a little unrelated, but I want you guys to hear this. Life is your island. Life is your island. So we are in the ocean and we stumble against this undiscovered island. Okay? And we're going to call that island the KMF Consulting Island. We're going to call it the Keegan 1924 Island. We're going to call it the Yachty Island. We're going to call it the Stephanie Island. Call it whatever you want, but it's your island. And on this island, you have the opportunity to declare what type of food you serve on your island, what type of music is played on your island, what type of clothing is played on your island, what type of clothing is sold, on your island. You get to choose the type of people that you want on your island. You get to choose the type of vibe and energy you want on your island. It's your island. And guess what? When there are things that you do not desire, you could send it off of your island so long as you invite something in place of what you're sending off, okay? So you can send off of your island whatever you choose so long as you invite something to replace what you're sending off. And so if you are sending off people that backstab, right? Or if you are sending off passive aggressive people, you can send passive aggressive people off your island and invite people who have the courage to have assertive conversations. You want to invite people who are honest about how they feel. You want to invite people in place of the passive aggressive people. You want to invite confident people onto your island. You could even send off thoughts. I don't like the thought that makes me feel like I've missed out on something on life. I send that thought away and I invite the thought that reminds me that I am enough, that God is a redeemer of time, and I have plenty of time to do exactly what God has called me to do. I send off this idea that I am not good enough. I send that off my island and I invite thoughts that remind me that nobody can do it like me. We have to understand that thoughts are like clothing. You can take them on and you can take them off, and feelings are the very same way. And so when you are sharing with someone how you feel, take ownership, because it's your island. It's your island, and you have that control over your emotions. So we use I statements as we are sharing how we feel. I feel this. I feel that, right? And we have to give her an opportunity to respond. I would love to say, if she says yes, do this. If she says no, do this. But I don't even want to go that far, right? Because fear is when we have too much focus on the past. Anxiety is when we're focusing too much on the future. Let's focus right here in the here and now. And the here and now is this. You have observations. You don't have clarity or a confirmation. If it's not on your plate, don't eat it. We can only eat an elephant one way, and that's to take one bite at a time. So understand that this is just feedback. Understand that it's important to have this courageous conversation. I find it very interesting that it has been over a year and you have not shared this with another human being. You have not even spoken to your wife. What are those communication issues? What has stopped you from sharing? You talked about not sharing with anyone else ever. You haven't spoken to your friends about it. I know that it can feel a little embarrassing, but understand that you do not have to go through this alone, okay? So you have this feedback, right? It doesn't necessarily confirm the truth. It's important to have this courageous conversation, right? Very, very important to have this courageous conversation because you don't necessarily know. Yes. So Yadi says over a year in big letters. Absolutely. It has. He said that this has been going on for a year, and then he corrects himself and says, actually a little over a year. Let me reference that. I believe that's what he said. Let me go back. He says, I am married, this and that. Okay. Over the past year, maybe a little over a year. Yeah, that's what he said. For the past year, maybe a little over a year, that he has been keeping this on the inside and not sharing it. The very last thing that I want to say, right? Because again, we don't want to start talking about what he should be doing next, right? It's important to plan. I do agree with the person that said that before. I want us to understand that adultery doesn't necessarily mean that it's over. There are couples that do recover after adultery. A lot of the times, adultery is a cry for help. And adultery is a sign that healing is needed. Now, I know some of you may be saying, what type of healing does a selfish person that only thinks about themselves, cheats multiple times? Well, even that inability to commit, even that inability to say no to what you do want to do, that is birthed out of some type of injury. It is a mindset that's not serving, especially when you find yourself hurting people that you love. And so again, it is a cry for help. Now, do we who are receiving it on the receiving end, if you are the one being betrayed, if you are the one being hurt, do you have to stay because this person needs healing and you want to support that? That's up to you. But I think it's important that we honor our non-negotiables. Because when we start to negotiate our non-negotiables, then you have no boundaries and there's no health and there's no strength. And now we have a problem. So if that's your non-negotiable, you honor your non-negotiable, you release yourself and you do what you have to do. But I do want to say, though, that adultery doesn't necessarily mean that it's over. There are couples that do recover. Is it easy? Absolutely not, especially when you are talking about that level of betrayal. And so, but although it's not an easy process, it can be done, especially when the wife and the husband have a desire to fight for their marriage. And especially when wife and husband have a commitment to changing their behavior, changing those mindsets, and all the things that contributed to the infidelity. So again, to wrap up, this is just feedback. We cannot tell you, sir, whether your wife is cheating on you or not. We can only provide you feedback. Be careful what you do with this feedback, because it doesn't necessarily mean that it's the truth. Have that courageous conversation. Say what you see. Make sure you're using I statements. Try to avoid being accusatory. Assure that you are in a regulated place emotionally and that you're having an intentional conversation. Don't allow a blow up, because you have been suppressing a whole lot of emotions for over a year. Please assure that you are as regulated as possible so the conversation could be as effective as possible. And number 3, people recover from infidelity. It's a long process. It's very difficult, but infidelity doesn't necessarily mean that it is over. All right, so let's see here before we close. Yadi is saying, I wonder what has taken him so long to seek counsel. Waiting longer makes the hurt worse. Yes, it's almost like an injury. The longer you are walking on a broken ankle, the more injury that you are causing. And this is why immediacy is so important. This is why conversation, and I call them conversations of care. And that's when two people have open dialogue, but not only when it's necessary, but that it becomes the culture of your marriage. It's one thing to be able to have effective communication when problems arise, but it's another when you make it a part of the culture of your marriage to maintain effective communication, open communication. We're talking about our days. We're talking about how we feel. We're talking about our vision. We're talking about our purpose. We are talking about our insecurities. When you can achieve that level of open communication, consistent communication, vulnerable communication with the person that you love, that is true health. And so not only do we want to be able to have courageous conversations, we want to stay connected through words all the time, right? And that's so important, because here we are in this marriage with this amazing woman that he says, and he has suppressed his emotions for over a year. That says a lot about how much open communication is possibly not a part of their everyday experience as a couple. And that is an issue, okay? Stephanie here on Facebook says, kind of speaks to the injury within. That is a manifestation of injury, whether it's an injury to their marriage, an injury for her, an injury for him. One of the most powerful forces that drive the way that we think, decide, and behave is unresolved emotional injury. And that is why we have the responsibility to get healed and to get well. So KMF Consulting on Instagram says, maybe even have the conversation outside of the home. Oh my God, I just had this conversation with someone on yesterday. Like, listen, it's we'll wait and we'll have the conversation when the children go to bed. And I said, you know what? And that's good. If that's what you have to do, this is what you have to do. But the best scenario is to get out of the home. Change the environment. I think that's really good. It just sets a precedence, right? Like, we're really going to be intentional about this conversation. We're actually going to go out. We're going to sit somewhere new environment and really get deep into these emotions. That's a very, very, very good recommendation. Love Speaks Blog says, what's his insecurities? Why are you so afraid of approaching this situation? So are we looking at some ego situations here, Love Speaks Blog? Right? I think we're looking at some ego here. This man that doesn't want to necessarily face this. I think that he's afraid of knowing the truth, right? Because when we know the truth, there's some follow-up action that's needed when you are exposed to the truth. And we wonder why so many people are okay with being in denial. It is because access to the truth or processing the truth appears to be more painful than just hiding behind non-truth. And that's what denial is all about. And so he can continue. I mean, even in this email, how many times did he reference the fact that she was an amazing wife and continues to make him feel like a king? Those were his words, right? And so he is afraid to find out the truth. And I think that's why he has not shared with her what his observations are. And so it is time for him to get over those ego issues that's causing him to not have full access to the truth. Keegan 1924 on Instagram says, sometimes life goes by quickly. 1 week turns into 6 months. You know what? Listen, I have got to agree with that. So initially, like right when I heard it, I was like, oh, come on, that's over a year. No, there is no explanation of that. But you are absolutely right. I mean, sometimes I look at the time like, oh my God, it's like August. September is right around the corner. And so this is what we do sometimes when we're suppressing even our purpose. Like, okay, I'll go to school next year. Then next year goes to next year. Then next year is not now another year. Your business plan has another coat of dust, and the next thing you know, it's 20 years later. Your kids have been out of school for 20 years. You said you were going to go back to school when they graduated, right? Or you're looking at everybody else progressing and time flies. And this is why immediacy is so important. Do it now. Have the conversation now. Apply now. Write the book now. Go to school now. Now. Leave now. Lose the weight now. Now. Right? Because you're right. Time and life do go by very quickly. I totally agree with that. Stephanie says, yes, courage to this man. And that's very courageous. People who need to know the truth, that's very courageous, because a lot of us find comfort in non-truth. I'm not calling it a lie, but if it's not the complete truth, it's unhealthy. I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. I appreciate your shares. Share. This gentleman is wanting your feedback, so be sure to share any additional feedback or observations that you have for this gentleman as he navigates through this season in his marriage that is undesired. Undesired outcomes come to make us greater, to make us stronger. And we always win. At the end, we win. It's a story, A chapter doesn't necessarily mean it's the end of your story. It's a chapter. And so this doesn't mean that they're not going to be able to recover. This doesn't mean that it's over. It just means that you are in this season, and it's important to get the help and the guidance that you need to navigate through. Thank you so much for trusting Ask Schellie's listeners. Feel free, sir, to email me if you feel that you and your wife needs a little bit more help and guidance and therapy to get you through. As for my team members here on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, thank you so much for tuning in to this week's Ask Schellie segment. On next Tuesday, we have a treat. I'll be coming before you live twice next week. I will be going live with the question, and later on that evening, we are together going to be celebrating 1 year of Ask Schellie on this platform. I'm so excited. Can't believe 1 year has gone by. But we will be sharing information on that, so you can get your champagne and join us virtually on next Tuesday at 7 in the evening. I will be back on next Tuesday at 12 o'clock live. For those of you who want to continue to support or have full access to my videos, subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can find me at Ask Schellie. For those of you who feel that you need a little bit more support for yourself or for a loved one, for your family, for your marriage, for your children, email info@askschellie.com for additional information on therapy with our firm. For individual and our group support, info@askschellie.com. If you want to send a question, into that you would like to be highlighted on this platform, you can do so by going to our website, www.askschellie.com. If you would like to book me for an event, if you would like a speaker, if you would like a teacher, a panelist, MC, hostess, you can do so by reaching me at www.askschellie.com. Thank you so much again for joining. Don't forget to like and share, and I'll see you next Tuesday at 12.